You're a beautiful fish.
How you doing, sir?
Hey, how's it going?
All right, all right. I'm glad you were able to make it.
Yeah, thank you. You're on a monitor over here, so you'll see me veering to the left.
Oh,
Didn't
no.
set it up correctly, but we're good.
Are you sure you want to put me on a monitor?
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Yeah. Well, I was just kind of going over a little bit. I don't know if how involved you've been with the community here on YouTube with the fish keeping stuff, but I guess we just recently got news that somebody that was pretty close to a lot of us just recently passed, and I was talking about that. But I don't know if you ever met Bunny Viper. We just got notification that I guess Thursday she passed.
Oh, wow. No, I never met.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I never seen that, so.
Yeah, we've been, well, I say this whole we stuff is there's a whole sub community within YouTube that we all kind of go around in circles to support each other. I don't know how many of us there are. It's most of us can find each other on Fish Fam Link, which is a website that was created to kind of put a lot of the fish creator content on it. You can go in there and it'll, like right now that you and I are going live, it poses it out. It'll send a notification. If you're doing lives, it really helps that way. Also, if you do videos, it'll send out notifications that you released a new video. And that was put together by this person named Matt. And there's a group within the community that also help keep up and update the information on there. So it's a really neat service. Fish Fam Stats, if you see FFL Stats, that's a Fish Fam Link is the name of the site. And for us that do content, it's a real useful tool. And you could also, it puts a lot of the contact information, like if you're trying to get a hold of somebody and you're on that site, it'll put out like your email. If you have an email, that's public. There you go, Fish Fam Link. They just came in. It'll have that. It'll have your channel. If you want to post any events, like let's say you belong to a fish club and you want to send out notifications that you guys are having a meeting, this site will do all of that for you. Like you have your own business, your online business, it'll post your websites, everything else. If somebody's looking for you and they want to be able to get, I know you have a Facebook page and all that stuff, but this is another area where you can link all that information and people can have access to your content and your product, what you're selling.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I need to get into the know for all of that. For sure. Every rock that I lift up, there's something I haven't looked at yet. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what it was. I was just kind of took advantage and kind of brought people up to speed like that. I just found out a little while ago before we went live. Hey, Jorge, Fish Fam, Brenton. Oh, okay, saying hello. Jackie, thank you for being here. Let me get some of the housekeeping out of the way and then we'll get going. Just acknowledge some of the people that have joined me. Anybody that's watched my live streams know that I am the worst person when it comes to keeping up with the chat. So I kind of like to get this out of the way in the beginning, because once I get into conversation, it's really hard for me to pay attention to the chat. It's like seeing squirrel, I get sidetracked and forget. So I want to acknowledge, why are we always yelling? Sam, thank you for being here. Fishcapade Mal, thank you for joining us. Redneck Aquatic Stan, thank you for stopping by and being here with us. Linda Worth, thank you so much. Uncle Smiley, thank you for joining us. Just one more fish, Jesse, thank you. Bare Bottom Brenton, thank you for joining us today again for the second time. Sunny G, thank you for dropping in. Jackie, thank you for stopping by. Thank you also for watching the replay this morning. And I did get your message. I appreciate your comment. Any Fish Will Do, thank you for joining us today. Let's see, who else? Oh, Craig's Catfish Caves. Craig, thank you for stopping by. MC Aquatics, admitted, Jorge, it's a train wreck. Yeah, I am a little bit of a train wreck. But you guys are like the people that like watching the accidents on the side of the road and stop and watch, even though you don't want to watch. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. But enough of that. Brenton, thank you so much for accepting the invitation on such short notice. I know I've been watching your channel for a little bit, and I've really have enjoyed it a lot. I really like your style of doing videos. You have this real knack for being very entertaining and informative at the same time, which is something that's pretty hard to do, believe it or not. It's to be able to have that right balance of humor and information. I was just talking to Gil from Gil's Fish Room. He's a gentleman that does videos out in Australia. He's kind of got the same style you do. Aquarium Delirium is another guy that's very similar to you, where you guys strike that balance of providing entertainment, humor, and information, which at the end of the day, that's really what we want to be able to take away is information, learn something that we might have not known. But you guys have managed to make it that it's, very, very consumable, very easy to watch. And I really do appreciate that. I don't know how much acknowledgement you get about that, but trust me, it's something that I really do appreciate.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it. Oh, and thanks for thinking it's balanced too. I like, for me, it's just kind of brain vomit that I just kind of like, and it siphons through different filters. And one of those filters is the notes on my phone. Another of those filters is when I have to listen back to it, and I'm like, oh, that's a little too crazy. Let's take that out of there. But yeah, I just it just ended up being like brain vomit, and I don't hear it from people I know. But I get reassurance in the comments on YouTube, so that's what really matters.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if you're putting something out, you're hoping that people can appreciate it, and that's the bare minimum that we seek, is that affirmation is like, all right, you want to watch this, and so you continue to do it. And so it's I know I've it was really interesting. Even from the very first video, I was trying to remember which one it was that I watched, but I think it was you were doing a little walkthrough through your fish room, and just kind of the way you were doing it, I thought it was really interesting, and your sense of humor really, I guess, connects with me. I can appreciate that. And so I've been watching that. The other one that was also really funny is the one where you went for that nature walk. You were out at one of the parks down there. I don't know if it was in Florida or Georgia. I think it was in Georgia. That's why I was assuming you were from Georgia, but you know what happens when you assume.
Right. Well, I'm close enough to Georgia, but yeah, I thought I'm still experimenting. I'm still trying to find what the formula was. And yeah, I considered that kind of a throwaway video. So I'm surprised that stood out to you. Sometimes you just wake up and you're like, okay, I'm going to see this video from beginning to end. And so I went on that nature walk. And of course, it took like 4 or 5 days to edit it too. So that's the thing that really kills me. The fish are always calling me, so I'm always in there. My family's freaked out that I'm up to my elbows in fish mud. But there's still definitely a formula I'm trying to find.
Yeah, well, I think like I said, I really appreciate the videos you've been putting out. What I always found interesting is kind of knowing, do you have a background in media, or did you have a previous channel before you started doing the fish stuff? Because you seem very natural in front of the camera.
Like many people my age, there was an area where I tried streaming video games. So, it was always fish. I watched too much TV growing up. So there's always movies and video games. So those are kind of the three things that I like to kind of keep in my mind. And so you see those influences in all of my videos. I run Brenton's Fish, and that's my Peter Griffin. I think that everyone that wants to hear from me, they want Brenton's Fish. I do run Brenton's TV, which is like movie reviews.
Oh, okay.
And then Brenton's Video Games, which is basically, I've learned how to edit from different point of views. When you do a movie review, you have to rip through 3 hours of footage, and it like introduced different workflows to me that I come back around to Brenton's Fish and insert that in. Before COVID, I did work at a PBS affiliate channel. And I was their computer guy. So they didn't really want me near the cameras. They didn't really want me near the video editing. They wanted me to run the website, keep the money coming in, upload large videos. And that's kind of the background. I come from PBS.
Yeah, no, I kind of assume that because I know a lot of us, especially in the fish community, a lot of the times this is the first time that we start getting involved with trying to post content or anything like that. I know the younger generations, you guys grew up in social media and that was just kind of part of your everyday. It's not uncommon nowadays. My grandkids, for example, he's already got a YouTube channel and he posts stuff. It's stuff that he's still trying to figure out. It's not anything groundbreaking, but he's getting in the reps now, so as he gets older, he'll definitely get better. He'll find his niche and then he'll do whatever it is that he wants to do. So by the time he decides to focus on something, it'll be a little bit more refined. Whereas you go look back at some of the stuff that my generation are putting out, and it is cringe. It is cringe 100%. It's not, there is no sense of direction as to where it's going, at least for the most part. Well, at least mine. I'm not going to speak for everybody else my age. I'm going to focus on what I do. And one of the things that I've never done is the editing. I hate editing. And that's why I am fascinated by channels like yours, Fathom Aquatics, Tommy, which is here from the Aquatic Fish News. What is it? The Aquatic News Network. Tommy keeps changing his name, so it's hard for me to keep up. These guys put in a lot of work when it comes to editing. And now it makes sense why there's a lot of like the little short movie references in your videos. I was wondering where that was coming from. Now it makes perfect sense. If you were doing movie reviews, those clips are probably registered in your mind and you go, oh, this would be the perfect spot for this scene from this clip or whatever. As a matter of fact, I was just watching one right now because I was looking at your Facebook page, and it's the one where you went to Petco to see if they would take your shrimp, and just the way that was pushed together, just by what you said right now, makes perfect sense. I go, okay, that's how he comes across. That's how you're able to pick these clips and be able to insert them at the right moment as you are talking about what you're doing, which that's part of what I really find entertaining. I was wondering why your content seemed more familiar in the aspect of the way it's put together. And that's probably what it is from. Because I remember when Marvel started coming out with the movies, there was a whole bunch of channels that talked about all these things that were going on in there. And there was a lot of videos that were kind of done the same way, not necessarily with the sense of humor and stuff like that, but where they were talking about the, reactions or talking about trying to explain scenes and stuff like that. And a lot of the editing is very similar in that style where they're talking and they'll be playing the scene that they're talking about and giving the explanation. And so that's why I was always kind of interested, because I knew it just, you seem very comfortable in front of the camera. So I was like, yeah, he's got a little bit of background on doing videos that if he's a first timer doing this, God damn, I was going to be real jealous because you nailed it.
Yeah, getting used to being in front of the camera, I mean, that was like years and years, like a baptism of fire. And it's like doing what you're doing now, the live stream. I feel like it's the ultimate test. And YouTube, you can always just video edit things out. But live streaming, I mean, it comes down on your nervous system. But the more that you live stream, the lower the adrenaline gets. Yeah. And then you do your 200th or 300th, and it's like the camera's not even on. So, yeah. And then, of course, all the pet people on YouTube are sweet, sweet souls, and probably the least amount of exposure to technology has probably done them the most amount of good. You get into other YouTube bubbles, and it just seems like depression runs rampant. There's a lot of isolation. You're trapped in there with the video game. And doing the fish stuff, it kind of forces you to breathe. You got to go collect rocks, woods. You have to look at the pet store people, point at the sick fish at Petco and be like, oh, I'm not getting that,
Yeah. But I was going to ask you, since you do have your stuff on Facebook, and obviously I saw that you also had like an X account, and I don't know if you're on TikTok, or I know you're on Instagram because that's how we communicated. But have you found it that it's pretty much the same on all the platforms, or do you find some tend to be a little bit more hostile than others?
I couldn't say. I did get grilled. There was a cup of guppies, and that was the highest video I've had to date. YouTube gave it 500,000 views. It's a short. TikTok gave it about 6,000. So I usually take one piece of content and I put it everywhere. Usually, 10 years ago they would say that's bad practice, but now you're so beholden to algorithms. You might as well just keep taking the same dice roll on each platform. And YouTube can be harsh. I think with a cup of guppies, I don't think people understood that, like, I was sweating and I was trying to put guppies in ponds and I found them and they were low on oxygen. And I like freaked out and I put them in the pond and they were fine. But when I retold the story, I said, these guppies are low on oxygen and they do disappoint father. And it sounded like I was joyous that the guppies were low on oxygen. And I'm showing people this so they do not let the guppies go low on oxygen. And there was a swarm of, and I think animals should have their rights spoken for, but I got myself into trouble just with the tone. I got caught with a left hook where there was a group of people that are like, you are abusing those guppies. And I'm like, well, a lot of mistakes happen in the fish room. So YouTube, I caught it the worst, right in the forehead. And I try to keep that in mind because it always feels like you're looking up at aquarium co-op or you're looking up at father's fish. And so it's very easy for me to be very blatant with my opinion and be like, this product is crap. And then before I know it, Corey from Aquarium Co-op is watching the video. And you have to keep in mind that, like, he has had everything said to him on the internet. So maybe if I go a little easy and don't sling the product across the yard, but in my mind, it seemed like a good idea and a good joke to make. And I'm on the receiving end of it. I'm like, well, maybe tone it down.
Yeah, but you know what? It doesn't come out. Well, I don't know. Maybe is because, again, I identified a lot with your style of sense of humor. That I get it. I understand. It's entertainment. You are doing entertainment, obviously, but not just entertainment. It's like I said, your style of doing videos is very different from my style. Because I sit up and I'll talk, but I'm not funny. I'm not very funny. So I know that. So I don't try to do a funny video. That's not who I am. I'm a shit talker and I'll talk shit, but I'm not funny. And so I tend to do a different kind of a video, more not serious. Well, yeah, I guess it's more serious compared to the style you're doing, but I get it. I get it that it's a joke. You're being sarcastic. You're doing all these things, which I really enjoy. So it's kind of like, I don't take any of that stuff personal. It doesn't come across as being personal. And the reality is, once you become a bigger channel, like in our community of fish keeping, people are going to take pops at you, but it's not always ill intent. It's at the end of the day, you're a content creator and you're trying to drive people to watch your content. So you're going to do things that might stimulate people to want to watch it. So yeah, as a matter of fact, I think he even gave you a shout out in one of the live streams that he was doing, where he was talking about, I think it was either that podcast that they do with Senzo, what is it, Ryan and Corey, where they were talking about what they've been enjoying. I think that's where he mentioned your channel, that he was really enjoying that, or it was, I don't know. I watch so much of his stuff that I forget where it goes through, but I remember your name coming up. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm not the only one that's really, really enjoying it. And so I thought that was pretty impressive, and so it just, I guess it goes to show that you're onto something. It's not, I wouldn't worry too much about if people taking it wrong. I don't think that's really a problem. I don't know Corey. I've never talked to Corey, but he seems not to take himself too seriously. So he can get a joke. He can appreciate a good joke. Yeah.
And and it's a numbers game too. Comments stick out in your mind, and it's really 1% of the views, 0.01, and then percentage of that is upset. But it stands out. But YouTube.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you, because I know you're running a full-blown online business now, but as far as with your hobby, your experience, when did that start for you? How long have you been keeping fish, and when did you start doing that?
It was like a lot of fish keepers. I always start with, I've been keeping fish since I was a little lad. So, you've got that little credit. Like my first tank was a 20-gallon high, and then I got a 10-gallon at 10 years old. And that hobby ebbed and flowed with your life. Things aren't going to be the same from 10 to 37. So, but there's times where I forgot that I had a fish tank. I'd see a photo of like my house that I was in when I was like 20. And I'm like, oh, I forgot I did have a fish tank. It always seemed like there was a fish tank that followed me through. When I was 10, I saw my grandfather's fish room, and he was very serious into it. He's the one that told me you could mail fish. He never sold them for profit. He said, I break even, and I only get store credit for fish food. But it blew my mind, from floor to ceiling fish tanks, grandpapa. And COVID, I think, is when the levees broke. It had been a few years since I had a fish tank, probably 5 years. COVID happened. We were on lockdown. And I looked over at a blank wall, and I thought a fish tank would look really good on it. I bought one and then immediately bought 3 more. And then that grew to 10 to 15. And then, I started getting questions from my wife, and she's like, what are you going to do with all of these fish? And I was like, sell them? I think I'm going to sell them. And she's like, okay. And I said it like it was my plan all along. I was like, oh, sell them. I collected every color of shrimp because I'm going to sell them. And I had no idea what I was doing. And then the truth is, the animals sell themselves. And then people remember you better. You always remember where you bought your dog from. You got a parrot, you always recollect, oh, I went to this here, or, any kind of pet. So I found that true with the fish. If you can grow them healthy and you send them to people's houses and they don't see a crooked back in the spine for a few generations, they think highly of you and they come back. And I've found it refreshing.
Now, you're in Pensacola, if I'm not mistaken. Now, do you belong to a local fish club there around there? Is there a local fish club, or you just decided that you were going to start breeding and then figure it out as it went along? Or how do you figure out how to start selling fish, I guess, or just from what your grandfather told you?
Yeah. I mean, I just typed it into Google or typed it into YouTube.
Oh, okay.
One day I was like, how in the world does this happen? I got burnt by Petco. I knew right from the beginning I didn't want to go to Petco. There's a PetSmart. Someone has a privately owned store across town. They close at 2 p.m. I'm kind of a little bit of a night owl, so 2 p.m. is. So I just, coming from PBS and coming from digital media, and I was trying to bring public TV to the internet. Excuse me. And I just knew that I was connected through the internet. I knew that I'd be able to send these super easy. And all you have to do is just end up ordering from someone, and you open the box and you're like, oh, it was that easy. So I just reverse engineered any package I got from anyone ever.
Now, when it comes to, I know the biggest obstacle, I guess, when it comes to selling online, or the biggest hurdle to overcome is the shipping cost. Was that something that you had to really try to figure out, or you knew right off the bat how to work that into your pricing? Because it seems like seems to be the biggest obstacle for a lot of people, is trying to, how do you ship? How do you go about getting the ability to do that?
I went on a YouTube, and Mike's Fish Room has a simple guppy sending tutorial, and he shows you that medium rate box, and you can put anything in that box with any weight. And that's how I started off with. You go through a post service, and it's $14, $15. If you bring it directly to the post office, it's like $16. But I used to sell, for the first 2 years, I used to sell all of my fish plus $14 shipping. I would sometimes eat the cost on the cooling pack or the heating pack. And people would buy and buy and buy. And I would go through the statistics and find out that I'm spending half of my money on shipping. So that's when I moved to box 4. And depending on how many zones you're away, you can get that down to $6 to $8. Sometimes it gets up to 14, and you might as well just use a medium box. But that was just, and is there a website? You can Google how to measure boxes, and then for mailing, you put the word Reddit at the end of it, and there's Reddit posts. And with the Reddit post, I found a website called fitshipper.com, or is it fitshipper.us? And you could type in the dimensions of your box or your package, and they're going to list every carrier and how much they would cost. What's the most efficient way to send that?
Oh, okay.
The first 20 or 50 orders came so quick that I was instantly baptized and knew what to do. And it came in 2 rounds, me shortening the cost and getting the small box, relying on the big ones.
Now, are you shipping across the entire states, or are you kind of staying within a geographical area, or how are you doing your shipping?
I ship everywhere. One time I was not paying close enough attention, and I sent a package of scuds to Germany. It was an address, but it was a military address, so it actually shot over. And the person was like, "Oops, I didn't change my address. I'm so sorry." And then another one I sent to Hawaii, and they seized at the borders because they do not want scuds in Hawaii. And I'm like, "I did not know that. I'm very sorry, guys." And they sent that box back to me, taped in yellow, a big angry stamp on it. And I'm like, "Gee," and all the scuds survived, which is even more of a bizarre story. But otherwise, I sent to Alaska, I sent to Puerto Rico because that's under the United States Post Service. And then being in Florida, it's really easy. It gets to Puerto Rico faster than California. I send everywhere except Hawaii. And I think there's some laws with Maine and the shrimp where they haven't defined if they allow the shrimp coming in. It's Maine or Connecticut, somewhere in New England, that I'm cautious about.
Yeah, I know I've tried it a couple of times, but I just used the medium like you, and from watching on YouTube, I've done it like 3 or 4 times, and I've had pretty good success, except for one time. And I should have known better because I live out here in Arizona, so it's really, really hot. And I try to avoid sending stuff. Even now, I don't think I could feel comfortable shipping because we're up in the 90s now. And if it's the way it works here, because I live in Yuma, Arizona, which is crazy because it has to go east back to Phoenix, Arizona for the distribution center. And if I don't send it out on Monday, Tuesday, probably the latest, it'll end up spending the weekend at the distribution center. And then from there, they'll wait till Monday and it ships out to where it needs to go. So I really have to be careful where I'm sending it or what day I actually put it in the mail, because I'm trying to avoid having sit in, because it's going to be in a container. They're going to prep it to ship. So it's not even inside a building. It's going to be inside the container. And that's like an oven. So anything you put in there, you're going to bake it. And unfortunately, I sent some angelfish up to Northern California, and I didn't time it right. That's how I learned that if I wait till send them on Wednesday, it's a death sentence to whatever I put in the mail. If it's alive, if it's non-perishable or whatever, it's no big deal. But when you deal with live fish, I got to be real careful. So I opt out. I'm better off sending stuff in the winter than I am in the summer for me, because it just gets way too hot. I've had sorry.
I have absolute information vomit about that. I will send it 25. If it lands somewhere between 25 degrees Fahrenheit and 105, I will send it. Of course, it's a little easier here in Florida. The air is humid, and I feel like the air being so wet, and I'm like half frog. It just kind of keeps things. I imagine it gets out there in the desert and they instantly get zapped. I would think that a couple of cooling packs could like be a better send off. Like if it's really hot here, I might double the cooling pack. I've sent about 1,200 packages, and the timing of USPS is so bizarre. Every week it's something new. And when they're well behaved, I can send on Wednesday and they'll land on Saturday. And I don't even really have to pay attention to which zone. When they're on it, they're on it. It's just they're only on it about 50% of the time. If it doesn't get there Saturday, it usually takes it lands the next Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. So it's like this 8-day gap. I've had one package take 26 days to go from North Florida to South Florida. Out of 1,000, just one. And the fish survived. There's a lot of different ways to pack them too. You've got the breather bags. They're small, they're nifty, but like I feel like with a little smaller bit of water, you're taking a higher risk, but you're trying to be lighter. And these things happen to be in the big, I went to the pet store bag. And of course, I'm using the box they don't weigh to send those. I've had shrimp last 30 days in the mail. Wow. And those were the two circumstances out of 1,200 that were just wild. Now, 50% of the time it gets there in 3 days. There's a 25% of the time it takes 4 to 7 days. And then there's this sliver chance that they'll take 9 to 14 days. And something's going on. There's some kind of weather going on, or they're changing a distribution center. I have noticed that they seem to keep flying the planes on Sunday. So if it goes over the weekend, I've had customers very displeased. And the ones that come through Brenton Fish are they edit themselves down. They've seen my face, so they don't want to wring my neck immediately. But I have sold through evident places where they haven't seen my face, and they want to clothesline me in the mouth if it takes more than. So I get a very unfiltered view, and I assume that other people are just thinking this. They're just being too polite. And I could write a book about the emotions customers have when receiving fish, because I would get those emotions. I'd be like, it's 5 days. I'm like clawing out my shirt like I can't breathe. And then I realized after thousands and thousands of packages, and I stopped having fish anxiety. You just wake up and you have anxiety. Maybe you see a dead fish. Desensitization was the key for me. Can't really tell your customers that, but I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah. And although I have to admit that neocaradinas, I call them the water roaches, because it's hard to kill them. It really is. Unless you have an ammonia spike, you're not really going to kill them. These guys are tolerate a lot of, and I know when I first started finding about shrimp, everybody used to, treat them with white gloves, and they were like the most delicate thing ever. But neos are bulletproof. I mean, you really got to do something really, really wrong to kill a neo. Now, caradinas, I don't know. I don't play with caradinas. My water is way too hard, and I'm not about to invest in an RO system to play with those. If I can't keep it in my water, I just don't keep it. But yeah, I've heard stories where they, 10 days, 30 days is pretty impressive, but I've heard 10, 12 days in the mail and they're fine.
Very low bioload. If one dies, I think it can trigger a downward spiral. But other than that, yeah, you can get away. I do order huge $300 packages from dealers, and like one color will seem very sensitive. So everyone will make it. I'll get a bag of white snowball neos, and 4 didn't make it. And I'm still scratching my head about that, because it's happened 2 or 3 times in a row, but on an overnight, even, no less.
Yeah, the ones that I have trouble with are the yellow. For some reason, the yellow shrimp, they don't do as well for me. I don't know if I'm the only one with that, but I know I quit buying yellow shrimp because they're the only ones. They're the only ones that I have trouble with.
Those are the second hardest for me, the yellows. It's because they're the prettiest. They're the most shocking colors, so of course.
Yeah, they're little prima donnas, I guess. But it's really amazing how resilient these guys are, though. I mean, fish in general. I mean, well, I'm not going to say in general. What I consider in general is I keep a lot of live bears, just because at one time the only thing I had access to was a PetSmart. Well, not at one time. What happened is I started going out of my area to buy fish, but for the longest time the only thing I had was a PetSmart. So my fish room is a replica of the fish you would see at a PetSmart. It's pretty much the same stuff, except it's healthier because it's been with me a little bit longer. But so for the longest time, that's all I really had. But I noticed that a lot of those fish are pretty resilient. I mean, I keep all my stuff in Arizona in the garage. It's partially insulated, but I have cinder block walls. Obviously, I have to figure out how to kind of temperature control this, unless I still haven't gotten around to put a split unit in here, which is something that I need to do. That'll make my life a lot easier. But I remember hearing because I went away from the hobby for for several years. I didn't come back in until somewhere around 2008, 10, somewhere around there. And I remember coming back and it's all like, oh, you can't keep fish at more than 78 degrees. You're going to kill them. So that was always like a fear in the back of my mind. But when I moved to this home that I'm at now, I didn't have a choice. I had to put everything outside, especially because it's kind of like you. It started out with, I only had 2 tanks and I was able to keep those indoor. But immediately when it went from 2 to 3 and then to 4 and then like 10, and my wife was like, oh, I ain't having this. You got to take everything outside. And that's when I realized is like, oh shit, now what do I do? Because water temperatures are in the high 80s, low 90s. And I'm thinking I'm going to kill everything in here. And no, I mean, I run shop fans and I run a lot of air during the summer. And fish are fine. Yeah, I do have some die off, but usually it'll be the stuff that's weak to begin with. Or they're not as healthy and those guys will die off. But I've never, knock on wood, had a tank crash on me because of excess temperature. It crashed on me because I didn't catch a die off that was happening. And then ammonia spiked and it killed the whole thing. But that even happened in the winter. It wasn't even in the summer. So, but I've learned during the course of doing this and keeping my fish here that a lot of fish that people would say don't tolerate these temperature ranges, I think because it's been a gradual thing where the temperature doesn't really fluctuate. It doesn't go from extremes here in Arizona. It's either nice and cool or freaking hot, and there's no in between. So it always, there's no let up at night. It's 100 degrees out here at night. So there isn't that fluctuation of temperatures. And I think the fish kind of adapt to that and they kind of, figure it out. All right, this is what we got to live in. So they adjust. But I haven't really, like I said, it's this, what's interesting about my fish room is that if you go look at my videos that were probably like 3 or 4 years old, you'll probably see the same fish. Cause I haven't had a big turnover of fish. I've kind of kept the same thing. Keeping live bears, you just make more. So as they age out and they go away, you have a new batch. So that's kind of what my fish room has been.
And people really appreciate that, even if you go to Petco and you just copy every single fish that they have, because something with their suppliers, someone's not getting caught out anywhere. All I see are worms when I go to Petco. I see this. That's how they're swimming. And it's like, okay, yeah, there it is. So you just taking that element out of people's lives, and Petco did all the market research. They're like, we know these Dalmatian platies sell. Yep. And then you're like, okay, I know those Dalmatian platies sell. And then if Petco is selling them for $3.99, you can just be like $6.99, but they're healthy. And you just double the price. And maybe you don't want to double the price. And if they're not selling, you put them in bigger groups, 20 for 50, 20 for 30, 20 for 25. And eventually it just all starts flying off the shelf. I'll find like one tank I want to empty. It's just like stressing me out that they're getting so thick. And I'll put it up. And then you'll have a whale come along and be like, I would like 400 fish, please. And then you have to break out the giant cooler where I received fish in. And I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this. And that feels real good. And you can absolutely do that following Petco's plan, PetSmart's plan. They did all the market research.
Yeah, it was funny because when I built this rack back here, I was thinking, all right, I like guppies. So I was going to get all these line guppies, right? I wanted to get I had some bluegrass, some red grass, all these other different lines, right? Thinking, all right, I'm going to, nobody here in town has these. They're going to want these. That's what I was thinking, right? And then I have a 55 gallon, which is my coals, but they're not coals for birth defects. They're coals because they didn't have the color strains that I was looking for. And I started throwing them all in there. And I started announcing locally that I had fish for sale. And people would come over and I'm thinking, all right, they're going to look at these guppies that are over here. And they're going to want those. And they come and look and they're cool. But they would gravitate to my coal tank. And because it had all the colors you can think of and all these different variations, that's the one where they're buying from. And I quickly learned that the only people that are really going to buy the line guppies are other hobbyists like myself, which understand what you're buying. For your everyday consumer, they like color, they like pretty. So it was kind of like an epiphany for me. I said, you know what? I'm going to quit buying all these line. I still kept a few of them, but I said, I'm just going to concentrate on making nice guppies. You know, I'm not going to worry about, and then I can sell them for a lot cheaper too. And that's the other thing that people like them. You know, they want to be able to come in with $10 and be able to walk away with a few fish instead of one fish. You know, so, you know, that's kind of what really keeps my fish room. You know, that's what gives me money to buy fish food, is that mud guppy tank. You know, I used to wonder why Michael's from Michael's Fish Room would have those big old ponds and pools that he would put outside and just bred mud guppies. They were also his biggest sellers, because again, the regular public wants all these different colors they can get, and that's what they want to buy. And you can get them for a lot less money than, let's say, a trio of a straight line. You're gonna probably pay, you know, 3 times what you would normally pay for a group of 5 mud guppies or whatever. So I should have learned from watching that, but I didn't. I was thinking, oh, I'm a lot smarter, and I know what the other hobbyists in town want. Come to find out, they just want nice, pretty, inexpensive fish, and that's kind of what. As a matter of fact, it's gotten to a point now where I have a friend that owns a fish store, but I got to drive 3.5 miles to get a Phoenix. So anytime I go up there, I'll call him up, and I said, "Do you want some?" I call them feeder guppies because he puts them in the feeder tank. I don't care. I'm going to get my money for them. So, and I'll ask him, and yeah, usually he'll ask, you know, I'll send, you know, anywhere from 50 to 100 that I can take up there at once and clear up some room for mine. But that, again, that is what keeps my fish room going. With him, I usually end up reinvesting it in the store by bringing fish that I want that I normally don't have. Like I was able to finally get some Pseudomagil Vercata forktails that I would not find here. I got a trio of Bozeman eye rainbow fish. So these are all species that I know I'm not going to find at Pets. Well, the Bozeman eye, they were carrying them. I don't think they carry them anymore. They kind of really cut back on the fish. They did a revamp of the store and their aquarium site, and I thought they were going to increase what they were going to offer. They really scaled back on the fish that they're keeping now, and it's just bread and butter stuff. They're not bringing anything sort of exotic anymore. So I was like, wow. So that's kind of what I've been doing, and that a lot of this stuff is stuff that I've asked him. I said, hey, what would you be interested in trying to get your hands on? So that's why I have those rainbow fish, and I want to give them a crack. I've never really done anything that's an egg layer, so it's kind of a learning experience. And then also, I know now that if I crack the code on them and I can breed them, I know where I can take them.
Yeah, I'm always. I have egg layers, and I want them to like lay the eggs and leave the eggs alone. I'm like, oh, come on, guys. The rice fish I found to be almost the closest to live bears. The Daisy's rice fish tend not to eat their fry, but just scooping all of the adults and moving them to a different tank. It seemed to be quite simple. A trick, I'm going to give you hot information here. So a common guppy is like $3, a pure strain's like 10, sometimes 15. I would take 2 different pure strains, like a half black blue and a Japanese blue, and I would breed them together. It was first by accident. And I would tell people, I accidentally bred these together. And this is what they look like. They're not established yet. They're 4 generations in. They are a little bit healthier than the pure strain. Half black blue, Japanese blue, hybrid. And I was able to sell those for the exact same price I would sell pure line. They were like fanatic that it wasn't inbred, and that, and they had like a little design to them. And to me, it didn't look as good as either pure strain, but it looked unique enough that it flew off the shelves. And I've never been able to get enough half black Japanese blue hybrids. I've got another one coming where it's 4 different strains. And I don't think that's like something I've stumbled on that I don't think anyone else has really capitalized on. And it's kind of like kind of beginner type people are drawn to it, because I know once you get to a certain level, you're like, what are those guppies? That is not pedigree, you know.
Yeah.
But there's some kind of middle ground, intermediate level where that stuff is really moving. Of course, my biggest surprise for things that sold was scuds. I didn't find scuds. Scuds found me, and they just came in and like infested everything, flatlined several of my shrimp colonies. And I was ready to bleach the tanks. And then I saw a listing for scuds, and I'm like, ew, you're selling that? I'm going to sell that. And it's like all I do is put scuds in bags. That's like 85% of what I do, scuds. So, and then people call me, they're like, my scuds are still in the mail, they're going to die. And I'm like, if only you were so lucky, they're not going to die.
Yeah, the one that surprised me, well, scuds is, yeah, that's definitely surprising. But I guess live foods have kind of made a resurgent now, and more people are interested in that. But ramhorn snails, that is one that really surprised me, because a lot of people consider them pest snails, but because there's a lot of smaller puffer fish, especially like pea puffers and stuff, that people are seeking these out. And I was like blown away when I found out that you could sell ramhorn snails. I was like, what? You actually want ramhorn snails? I still haven't figured out anybody that really wants Malaysian trumpet snails. Those guys, I guess nothing will eat them, and you can't get rid of them. Those are the terminators of the snails.
I find that like the ram's horn always tends to win. They push out the other populations, but I'm amazed at how much tank trash you can sell. You just have to keep it organized. You just have to organize your tank garbage. They will buy balls of algae, balls of mulm, pack them up some fish poop. They might want some of that. And they do, because someone wants fertilizer out there. I'm not selling fish poop, but everything else I've seen for sell and move. And then guppy grass, you're like, well, no one wants guppy grass. Well, sell it in a ball as big as your head for $60. They do want that. You'll be surprised if you offer different quantities, like the internet will provide somehow.
Yeah, and that's guppy grass. And it's funny because that one I don't struggle too much, because as soon as I put it on Marketplace, that goes away real quick. I mean, everybody wants, because I guess most people around here, again, the only thing you really have access to is PetSmart. Live bears is predominantly the fish that you can, and to avoid the parents eating the fry, they want something that could give them somewhere to hide. So I know that one has been pretty good. Hornwood, that is hit or miss, but I have a lot of that too. As a matter of fact, I started replacing the hornwood with guppy grass, just because it won't drop its needles like the hornwood for me. And I don't know, it just it seems more manageable, if it makes sense. And so that's slowly kind of phasing out all the hornwood in my fish room. But yeah, even people will buy that stuff.
I really like to set it and forget it. I'm trying to move off my tanks to just one type of plant and maybe one type of moss, because over time, with so many tanks, I'll just see a crypto just getting owned by the Vallisneria, and they're just having slow motion plant war inside the tank. And if you ignore it for too long, one wins, and then you just miss out on the other plant. You have to order another one. And so in the spirit of set it and forget it, I've definitely been thinking about, this will be my guppy grass tank. This will be my hornwort tank. This is crystal wort, just to keep the plants from fighting each other. Subwasser tang or the freshwater seaweed, if you just give that its home by itself, the glass bottom, it does so much better. If it even has to look at another plant, it stops growing.
The one that surprised me is duckweed. There was actually somebody selling duckweed. I was like, what? That comes in free when you buy plants. What do you mean you're selling duckweed? But I have a coworker that I just found out that we were just talking about. He was asking me about Azores. It's another floating similar. And he goes, do you have any of that? Because he knows I keep fish tanks. I go, no, but I got a ton of duckweed. He goes, what are you doing? He goes, well, I want to feed my chickens. So he was looking at something easy. I go, dude, I got you, man. I got tons of duckweed, and your chickens will love it. So now, before I go back to work on Tuesday, I got to go through all my tanks and scoop out as much as I don't want to get rid of all of it now, because I want to be able to constantly supply them some. but he says he'll take as much of the duckweed that I can take to him. So now I found something that I'm trading them for eggs. So it's not necessarily a monetary gain, but it's a barter system. I give him duckweed, he gives me eggs.
I've gotten so close to eradicating duckweed, and like right when I got it on its last leg, I'm like do I want to get rid of it? And the answer should have been yes, because it's back and it's coming out of my ears. I almost just want to pivot my entire fish room just for the duckweed and like carry like 10 fancy goldfish tanks and be like, here, babies, it's food time. And just eventually, if it became valuable in my eyes, I know I'd run out. But otherwise, I was drinking a glass of water the other day and choked on something. It was a piece of duckweed.
Well, my wife got mad at me because she found duckweed in the bed the other day. She goes, "You need to do a better job of rinsing off before you come in here."
Just nothing like it. I like spot it in movies and video games now. I'm like, there it is. Why? And I remember it at my grandfather's fish room, which is why I like got it intentionally. And I wish I hadn't. Well, it's a love-hate relationship. When it's good, I wish I hadn't. When it's about to die, it looks at me sadly like Golem, and I have sympathy like Frodo at the last minute. So,
yeah, no, it's again, it's one of those things where I actually had a group of goldfish. I had 6, and that's what used to be my disposal team. I couldn't keep up with them. I couldn't provide them enough duckweed to consume, and now that's why I got rid of those. And then I had instant regret of getting rid of that group. That immediately turned around and got these guys behind me. And I was hoping they would be as good as the ones that I had, but these guys, they're too bougie. They don't want the duckweed. They kind of look at it, and I have to starve them out and not feed them at all. And then they'll start kind of, looking at me funny with side eye and eat the duckweed. But no, those other guys, they were just some fantails that I got from PetSmart. And actually it was, I had my grandkids for a couple of weeks, and I had all 4 of them here, and they were looking at the fish tanks that I had, and in my infinite wisdom, I said, "Do you guys want to have your own fish?" I was trying to find an excuse to set up another aquarium. That's really what I was doing, and I know the wife was not going to say no because it's for the grandkids. And so we took a trip down to PetSmart. And I thought, all right, they're going to pick, whatever. I was willing to do whatever they wanted. Well, Nathan immediately gravitated to the little fantails, and he said, "Oh, I want that one." Well, once he picked that, the other 3 automatically picked goldfish, and that's how I ended up with goldfish. And it was supposed to be like a temporary thing, and then it became more of a permanent thing, to the point where they got older. And I asked them, the last summer they were here, I said, "Hey, you guys don't come and see your fish anymore." They're like, "We don't want them anymore." I was like, all right. So at that point is when I decided I was going to get rid of them, but I didn't realize how attached I was to them until I got rid of them. And then I started missing them. Well, I don't know if I was missing the fish or what they were doing for me, because now I had all this duckweed. I was like, what am I going to do with this stuff? So I ended up, a few months later, ended up getting some more goldfish, and which I have to move now to the previous tank that I had set up for them. But I don't know. These guys haven't earned that spot because they don't want to eat my duckweed. So we're going to have a heart-to-heart.
Right. That's something I'm trying to traverse, is how to delicately show my children the fish tanks to make them interested. I can't be too overt. I can't, I try to control if they go running into the fish room, they're not supposed to be there. And I try to, like, okay, guys, get out of there. I try not to get it like angry. I don't want them to associate me, be like, get out of there. Don't go in the even though it's dangerous and they should not be elbowing their way through there. One's 4 and the other's 1. And it's like, do you just hand them a fish tank and you're like, you just watch over their shoulder, but you give them the fish? And I don't know. I was never interested in my parents' hobbies, and I don't know how to pull a fast one to make them interested in mine.
Yeah, I guess it's just the less you push it on them, the more I guess they'll gravitate towards. It's like obviously growing up as a kid, the last thing I wanted to do was what my parents said to do. I was gonna do the opposite. So maybe you need to tell them, no, that's not for you guys, and then they'll be more interested and go, oh, I want some because Dad said I can't have them.
Pick up every hobby except for fish. Like I do that already.
So I know with your business, you said you started up like in the pandemic and stuff like that. What are some of your future goals that you like to be able to accomplish? Is it, or are you kind of pretty happy where you're at now and just trying to maintain?
I'm trying to figure out how to get the videos out faster. And I'm trying to do that without complaining to my audience that I can't get to the videos faster, because you watch enough YouTubers, that's everyone's Achilles heel. And everyone has a long list of why they just can't get to it. So I've been like set back a little bit. I want 300 tanks. I have 46.
Wow.
I've got 10 that are empty on the floor, which is just the greatest thing to me. The possibilities of the endless tank, or the endless possibilities of an empty tank. But I would like to get to 300 tanks and just live every day in the fish room. But trying to get videos out when I've got like maybe a 1 or 2 hour window a day, it's teaching me some things. It's teaching me how to be efficient, how to lay the groundwork. But yeah, 300 tanks, more videos, all the children working in the fish room from dusk till dawn. No, I'm just kidding. Just me.
Yeah, no, and I know one of the videos you had recently posted, you were talking about that, whether you should continue to do the YouTube stuff or just focus on your business. And one of the comments that I made to you is like, well, take advantage of the fact that you have a YouTube audience, because that's really your driving customer base. Use it as advertisement. I tell everybody that has a YouTube channel, if you really want to be successful, it's not going to be subscriber base. You're not going to make money on YouTube by having a big channel. That train is flown by. Flown by. What's the fuck's up with my analogies? That's passed us by. I think now the way you make money with YouTube is to back a business behind it and use YouTube as your ad, your ad tool. That's where you place ads. Really, the videos that you're doing are kind of highlighting the product that you have. And if you can back a business behind that, you're going to have a lot more success than if you're trying to get to X amount of subscribers and wait for the ad revenue to pay for your living. That's not going to happen unless you get, millions of subscribers. I see a lot of people that have over 50,000 and they're complaining about not getting enough ad revenue to sustain a livelihood. So I've always said, if you're going to do this, if you can tie it behind a business, whatever it is your business that you're doing, you're going to have a lot more success. And if you look at the bigger channels, Aquarium Co-op, that's a no-brainer. The reason that he still continues to do videos, because that's the best way to push his product. And I don't blame him for it. I know some people, he gets some hate because it's just advertisement. But yeah, if you have close to 1 million subscribers, of course you're going to take advantage of that audience. If they're watching your stuff and you're selling a product, why would you not try to sell it to them? You have KG Tropicals, which is another one that's driving a business behind their channel. Because if not, then you get into that precarious situation where kind of like the one that I like to use for an example is the king of DIY, Joey. He doesn't have a business behind his channel, so he's constantly having to grasp at ideas, using clickbait, doing all these other things to try to generate people to watch and continue to maintain the audience that he has. And at least from my perspective, that's not something I would want to do. I think that would eventually wear on me, and that's where you get burnout. I think that's where burnout really comes from.
That's that YouTuber depression I'm talking about, and it's a spectrum too. You've got the time lapse guys over here, and then you've got Corey over here, heavy on the business, and then there's one guy He doesn't need any more subscribers. It's called Fish for Thought. And he was clearly a videographer. And he would do these lavish time lapse things of setting up a guppy aquarium. He's like, he might have had a British voice. I'm setting up an underground water cave. In like one video, it was like 3 million views. And I'm like, what the shit? Am I? And
yeah, there's some more. There's some backstory to that. We could talk offline about it. It's the dark side of the YouTube that people don't really talk about.
Well, and there's just in a couple of years, all this is going to be replaced with AI. It's going to be AI telling you, this is a water cave. Look at these fish. So, and I think they will be the first to be replaced. There's a heavy editing, and then there is a heavy business, and those are two completely different business models. And I try to put myself somewhere in the middle there. And so you watch the guys that are very heavy in the videographer, and they don't tell you any fish facts. They're not telling you about bacteria. They're not telling you that the guppies come in the mail and there's worms in their gut. They're not telling you really. It makes you wonder how much they know about animals, and there's only so much you can know. So you definitely have to choose your battle. I definitely have a soft spot in my heart for the fish tubers that are willing to get their hands wet and send you a bag of fish. That's like it's like, you are a fish tuber if you can send me a bag of fish. You've got to process, because I've anything else is so much easier to ship. If you were selling t-shirts and those t-shirts don't live and breathe, it would be so easy to get 10,000 subscribers and just be like, I'm a t-shirt guy. Wear my t-shirt, So hats off for the people who mess with the live animals.
Yeah, that's definitely the challenge. And it's just because there's so many different temperature zones. I guess I always take it for granted that our winters are so mild that I can ship across all the southern states and not even think twice about it. And it's not until I talk like Jeff from Empire of Dirt that lives up in Wisconsin, and he's telling me it's minus whatever, and I'm like, holy smoke. He goes, yeah, I leave that outside for 15 minutes, it'll be frozen solid. And so those are the things that are, I always don't really think about, because where I live, it's
Jadrin's Aquatics. Now his latest video is a crypto ad.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. I like fell out of my chair when I saw that. To each their own. But he had a really cool video where he was pretty OCD about it. He put a little temperature gauge in there, and he kept track. And he said that the temperature really did not fluctuate. And it was in the middle of summer that he did this.
No.
Summer or winter, I'm probably misremembering. The trip to the final destination was the biggest exposure that they have. Wherever they land, what the highs and lows are that day. I think USPS starts at 9 a.m. You can kind of get away with, there's times in springs where I don't have to send insulation. And sometimes I'll look and it'll be April, and I'll see that it goes up to 93 degrees in an area, but I'll notice it'll only be there for like 1 hour, versus in the middle of the summer, the entire day is going to be 95 degrees. So I've found a lot of flexibility. I've never sent temperature gauges out, but I followed Jadrin's advice with that, and it seems to be true. The last final splurt of the trip is the most riskiest. So you always got to keep in mind, what's it going to be like in Connecticut 4 days from now? And then my cooling pack or heating pack is going to be a lot less powerful too, which will get you. So
now, do you ship the entire year? Because I know some people that have a business, the winter, they just say, I'm not sending ship. They'll ship basically from the spring till the fall, but winter times they shut down business. Do you actually ship year round?
I do, mostly because I need Christmas money. But if I were to do it again, I think February or January, it's like middle of January to the middle of February, I would like to make a dead month where I'm not going to send anything. It has been the worst time for USPS. They're like so confused. They work so hard for Christmas, and they're on top of it all the way up into Christmas. And then right after Christmas, there's this sag, and your stuff is going to take 14 days in the mail, and you're going to have 9 people yelling at you at the same time, which means there's probably another 9 that are quietly angry. So if I could make a dead month, it would be January, where I just wouldn't send anything, not because of the weather, but because of the mail speeds. The scuds, I don't send styrofoam. If the bag's not going to freeze solid, I can get away with not even sending insulation. If it does get under 35 degrees, I'll send in a wad of like paper bag and then a heat pack and still no styrofoam insulation. And they make it just fine. And people are like, this bag is cold. What in the world? And the scuds are still wiggling in there. If it gets under 30 degrees, you're in the dead zone for fish and shrimp. If they're outside in a pond and it gets under 55 degrees for guppies, you're going to see raggedy fins. They do not like it. They are not a fan of North America winters. But if they get under 30 degrees and definitely under at 25 degrees, no matter the insulation, no matter the heating pack, it always seems like dead on arrival. So that's the degree that I will tell them. It's very cold this week. Can we try again next week? Or I'll get back in touch with you next week. And usually people are fine with that. I want to get all the orders, so I'd feel so awful shutting everything down, but I might have to just for January.
Yeah, I've heard people say that they try to avoid the peak season of Christmas and stuff just because it's just so busy and they're so understaffed that they seem to have a lot more incidents happen during that time of the year. I know several of the people, especially when here in the community, that do sell fish. That's the one time where they'll say, like, around Christmas time, the holidays, they quit sending stuff just because to avoid any mishaps or anything like that. So I don't have a problem with doing it if it's a southern state, because I know the temperature is not going to be any colder than where I'm at, and they'll probably be a non-issue. But I think if I had to go further up north where the white stuff falls on the ground, then maybe that might be an issue.
Yeah, I'll just Google the city they're in with weather afterwards, and then you get all the numbers, and I go right off of that and wish them luck. And it's been a higher success rate. There's a supplier that I've been using, and if you order 200 or more, they send you overnight for free. And he said it's FedEx, but it's coming in UPS. So I'm about to reverse engineer that and find out exactly what. There's so many options that I think I do need to eventually leave USPS behind. I think there's flat rate options with FedEx as low as $25, which is a good chunk of change. And I think there's an overnight option out there somewhere for like $40 to $30 that I probably need a massage in there.
Now, from your experiences at shipping stuff like that, and as many as you have, do you have any interesting war stories you can share, or would you rather not talk about them?
There's a few, and I wanted to make a YouTube series about it, but I think like maybe it would be like too negative. I wanted to reenact the voices. I hear these fiends come in, they're sick, and I hate them, But there was this one guy. He ordered 100 coal shrimp, 100 multicolor Neos. So I pack it all up and I send it to him, and he contacts me like 9 days in, and he's like, these aren't here. And I'm like, oh gosh, that's awful. That never happens. But some of them do take 9 days. Shouldn't take more than 14. It took 31 days. And so he was contacting me daily for every day after that 9th day for 31 days. And I usually wait for a full 30 days for us to announce that they're gone. But he was like so pushy, send me another one, that I sent another one. And so I sent the first one, 2 weeks passed. The second one I sent 2 weeks into it. And the second one actually got there a few days before the first. And I was trying to show him like screenshots from USPS. They were claiming weather this, weather that. And he just was like accusing me of like fake sending it. Like I didn't send it. He kept telling me, I wasn't born yesterday. And he lived in Georgia. He's like right above me. And he's like, you seem a few fries short of a Happy Meal trying to explain this to me. And then like when he got them, he like counted each one. And he's like, there's 3 missing. And it was like just at every stop and turn, there was just something wrong. And at the end, I had to give him like a few dollars back. And then the missing package arrived at his house. So he got 200 shrimp, or I'm sorry, 197 shrimp. And I had written a book with this guy. I was basically his fish therapist. I'm like, sir, they're not going to die in the mail. They have lots of food. I put an anti-ammonia sponge in there. I pack them the best I can. Here's the screenshot for the USPS. Here's this, here's that. And it like taught me maybe I should go radio silent sooner until the package lands. Because I was his therapist and he ended up getting a free package. I got the original money from him, so that's good. I've had others that just flipped out and got completely free stuff. And again, this isn't through brentonsfish.com. The eBay people will let you have it. The Etsy people will let you have it. They see you as eBay and they want to clothesline you. So that's where those horror stories come from. And yeah, making a video about it, I was like thinking maybe I do spend a lot of time complaining, and I'm like, when is YouTube going to get sick of me complaining? So I want to try to do a positive spin on things. I kept thinking about doing a roast video, that old Discovery show that did fish. And I saw them at an Aquashella recently. What is that show? Fish reality show. Let me see. I wanted to like watch that.
Oh, what was it? Tank. What was the two brothers, right?
Yes, they are like so corny, and I tried to watch
Tanked.
it. Tanked. There we go.
Yeah, Tanked.
There we go. I saw it. Like I wanted to do a huge roast. A lot of my movie content is just taking media and like picking it apart and just kind of like writing a script with a bunch of little jokes here and there. And then over time, more stuff will come to me, and it gets better and better, almost like it's marinating. And I wanted to do that with Tanked on my fish channel. Just kind of point out how ridiculous it is. The skits, if you ever sat down and watched it in 2025, it is unwatchable. And I was on Instagram the other day, and I think those guys were at Aquashella. Like, they're still around.
Yeah,
so
one
if
of
I
the
make
brothers.
a roast video, they'll probably have to sit down and watch it. And I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, I don't think he's watching YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, it's one
I'll
of the
have to
brothers.
see if anyone's done it yet.
No, I don't think anybody. Well, I'm not going to say that because that's not true. I know I haven't come across anything similar to that. So that could be something. And you know what? I'm pretty sure they knew what they were doing because it's not a reality. It's all scripted. So I'm pretty sure they're looking at these scripts and going, what are we saying? Because they must have known what they were doing and talking about it was not going to work. They never talked about cycling an aquarium, and they just throw shit in there and walk away. And a couple of weeks later, everything's dead. So that was like the common story about that.
Yeah. I think it's like Bono on a podcast or something talking about his tank and how they all died like the next day after all the cameras left. And I'm like, can you at least like squeeze a dirty sponge in there or something? Like, it's like the highest, I don't know. It's the highest fish crime you could do. You'd be like, hey guys, we got some lionfish. See you later. We put it in a big shoe-shaped tank. Here you go. And then of course the skits make me want to run into a wall. So, but like, I don't want to say that directly to them. Like, they'll just wake up and Google their name one day and be like, oh, who's this little long-haired guy talking about me? But I want to rip that apart. I don't even think I have the fortitude to sit down and watch more than 2 or 3 episodes, though.
Yeah, but that would be funny. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure, and I don't even do saltwater. And going back and watching some of the stuff they were doing, it's kind of like, how can they be trying to pull this off? Because you know what the outcome's going to be. You're looking at that and going, God, they're going to sacrifice all those fish. And I guess even with some of the tank builds that they did, they ended up leaking after a while. So everything's under a crunch time, and it's all done more for the production than really making it last. It's no different than when they used to do Pimp My Ride. A lot of those cars barely made it off the lot when they were already breaking down. And, they were doing all these outrageous stuff to them, but it was all for the views and not necessarily for the function. And that's kind of, they took that concept that they were doing with vehicles and decided to do it with fish. And I'm really surprised that some of the animal conservation groups didn't really make a bigger stink about putting these animals in harm's way. Or they did. I just didn't find out about it.
The internet wasn't what it was back then. I feel like there's a modern reiteration of that too. Reptile royalty on Roku that just came out. And not that I'm in, but like it's just cool that he's running a pet store and stuff. But then they start dipping into the skits, and I'm like, guys, no, please. And I'm sure that guy is controversial for some reason in the reptile world that I don't know about because I don't know how to take care of reptiles. So there you have it.
Yeah, I've never. Well, I don't like snakes, so that just kind of really limits that whole side of it. And then anything that looks like a snake, I'm not a big fan of either. So a lot of lizards didn't look like snakes, so it's kind of like it's a done deal. I think I'd rather mess with some of the insects. I like the stick insects. I think are pretty cool, that kind of stuff. But I'm not dealing with like scorpions or spiders or anything that can kill me. I don't want to mess around with. There's enough stuff out here in the world that already wants to take me out. I don't need to be messing around with it in my house. Like these guys that run all these venomous snakes. I guess they call them hot snakes. It's like, God, man, you like playing Russian roulette. I don't care how good you are. I don't know a snake charmer that hasn't been bit yet. They all end up getting it at one point or another.
Rite of passage.
Yeah. Well, forget that. You end up with missing digits at the bare minimum. Worst case scenario, you end up dying. Finger. Yeah.
We've got moccasins and copperheads here. So yeah, I'm like, if I want to get bit, I can walk out in my front yard. They'll find me on my back hours later, foaming at the mouth, whatever happens.
Yeah, going out of your way to go look for them. That just the people that want to swim with sharks too. It's kind of like, you must really have a death wish because I don't care how friendly they are. So no, at any point in time, it'll turn on you.
Think about those TikTokers that like jump in the water at the Everglades at nighttime and they have the camera down there and they're just like, wee. I'm like, oh, no, it's just too many types of leeches that would find me. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think of, what was it? Was it Stand By Me? No. The one with the kids go looking for the dead body. Oh, no, you're too young to remember that movie.
Is it Macaulay Culkin?
No. This is with the Corys, Phoenix River, and this is way before your time. But one of the scenes is they jump in a lake and they all get covered in leeches. That I was young when I saw that, so that always traumatized me. And I was like, nope, I ain't going to swimming in no lakes.
I think that
especially because one of the kids had it
me.
in his. One of those kids had it in his shorts, and it's kind of like you can see him look down. And his buddy looks at it, then he has to pull it out, and it's all full of blood. It's like, no, I don't need leeches. Nope, they ain't doing that.
That's a good movie. That was, parodied enough by Family Guy for me to catch that culturally. So,
yeah, but yeah, well, I know you got some stuff to do around the house, and I've already taken up about an hour and a half of your time. I kind of touched a little bit on the social medias where people can find you, but as far as your business is related and stuff like that, where can people reach out to you if they want to purchase stuff or you just consume some of your content? Because I know you got it in several locations.
Oh yeah, I would say I mostly live on YouTube, so that's brentonsfish.com. When I meet people and I say I'm Brenton's Fish in real life, they don't really. Brenton's an odd name, so that's how you spell it, right there, Brenton. With an S, so brentonsfish.com and Brenton's Fish on YouTube. I'm on all of the other socials. And I would say that the main action is definitely happening on YouTube. There you have it. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Threads.
And the best way for people to get a hold of you, would it be on Facebook then? Because you don't have an email that I remember looking on your description, and I don't know if you purposely did that, but there isn't a contact email that you on there.
Yeah, I'm at the point where I do read every comment. Brenton's Fish at Gmail. I should probably post that somewhere. When people buy something from me, there's a contact form on the website, and so I instantly started having people in my email. So I never put two and two together. So thank you for pointing out that business inquiries at Brenton's Fish at Gmail.
Yeah, usually when I reach out to a potential guest, I'll look to see if they have their email, because that's usually, if you post it on there, it means you check it. That's why I reached out to you on Instagram, because I couldn't find an email to reach out to you.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, no, that was a good choice. That like little notification on Facebook and Instagram popped up. But yeah, I'll probably make other things available like the email and stuff on YouTube. But I read all the YouTube comments, so I am on there
you
like
do.
spaghetti.
Yeah, you do, because you answered all of mine.
Got lots
I know
of time.
You do. Well, with that being said, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to join me today and for accepting the invitation. Typically, this was kind of unusual the way I do my live streams, because usually I'll reach out to the guest and I like to post it like 2 or 3 days in advance. But when you texted me this morning, goes, "Oh, so you wanted to do this today?" I was like, "Well, hell yeah, let's do it." And that's why it was kind of a short notice, but you got to strike when the iron's hot. So I was like, yeah, if you want to go, we'll go today. And so that's why it was kind of like, most people are used to getting a notification or something from me a couple of days out, but I was like, nah, that's why I normally don't do 2 live streams in a day. And because I didn't have anything for this weekend and I happened to be off, I said, it's time I do something. So I typically, I have 2 live streams that I do. I do this one where I have guests on this, and it's really cool because I get to meet people and get to talk to them and get to know them. But the one that I also do is I like going and searching the internet or YouTube and trying to find new content creators that are starting out. And the reason I do that is because I remember when I was starting out, people acknowledging the work that I was doing when I was beginning really was motivating for me to continue. And if it was somebody that had a higher subscriber count than me, it kind of weighed a little bit more in my perception of what the comment was, because now here I'm thinking to myself, wow, somebody that's got a few more subscribers than I do is watching what I'm doing. So that encouraged me to continue to go. And it's actually been a way for me to be able to pay it forward for the people that supported me when I was starting out. So I know you that's how I when I saw your channel, I was like, oh, I got to make sure that people know about you. And I had done it on on one of those, I call it the plug. And basically because I'm trying to promote other people's channels. And so I did that today thinking I didn't have anything scheduled for today. So that's why, if people are wondering why I had 2 live streams and none of them were scheduled, it's because they were all last minute today. But with that being said, I want to thank everybody that was here. I know there were some late people that came in. Something Fishy, thank you for dropping in. Let's say I thought I saw Dr. Coletti. I think he also kind of came in here. Ryan, Jody, Night Owl. Let me real quick try to acknowledge some of these people because I really do appreciate the coming in. Let's see, Stan. So with that being said, thank you guys. We're going to cut out of here. For dropping in. Aquafunk, Any Fish Will Do. Cheryl, thank you for dropping in. Let's see, I want to make sure.
Please join us.